Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Mind, Body, and Kadira. This episode is going to be about when healthy eating becomes way too restrictive. And with me being diagnosed lupus and heart failure for the last 4 or 5 years, I have a pretty good understanding of how people with chronic illnesses can get into these very restrictive habits where we're not eating whole food groups in attempt to prevent ourselves from having flare-ups. But this can also be for the people who can be perfectly healthy, but maybe you just want to get your body fat down. Maybe you want to be more lean, and you don't really know how to get there without feeling like you're dieting in general. Nobody likes feeling like you're dieting. But also, we want to make sure we're not being too restrictive. Because when we're being too restrictive, now we're talking about we're missing out on important vitamins and minerals that you need in order to just have a healthy way of living, in order to just have a great quality of life. How good do you sleep? How much energy do you have right after waking up? How are your bowel movements? How do you feel? How does your digestive system feel? Um, how does your skin look? How does your hair look? All of these different vitamins and minerals are so important to not just your internal health, but your external health as well. So we want to make sure we're not restrictively eating and missing out on these different things and causing us to have just a lesser quality of life. So with my journey, like I said, I was diagnosed lupus back in 2021, and then I was diagnosed heart failure 2024, I want to say. Maybe 2023, probably 2024, I was diagnosed heart failure. And with both of these diagnoses, they came with rules. And these rules were, okay, you can't eat over 2,000 milligrams of sodium per day in order to prevent my body from retaining water. I couldn't, well, not necessarily I couldn't, but there were certain foods I had to avoid. So, like, no fried foods, uh, just no overly artificial foods. I couldn't have a lot of sugar because that causes inflammation. And you can imagine there was just a lot of don't do this, don't eat this, don'ts and no's, right? And we don't want to live that way, or at least I didn't want to live that way. But because I didn't have the education that I have now, I did live that way. So I was eating very restrictive. If I can remember, all I was having, I don't even remember what I was having for breakfast. I think I was having like three boiled eggs for breakfast. Um, just three boiled eggs, like no sauce, no seasonings, no salt, no pepper, nothing. Just three boiled eggs. I was scared shitless of seasonings. With my doctors telling me that sodium is one of the key things that really trigger inflammatory response and a flare up with me would be sodium. Honey, I wasn't seasoning a thing. I used like powders, like garlic powder, onion powder. I use a little black pepper, but when it comes like salt, so like all our favorites like the Lawry's, the adobo, the Saison. I was even scared to use Himalayan salt for a long time. So I was just doing like three boiled eggs for breakfast. I would have rice, corn, and tuna for lunch or dinner, depending on how I was feeling. I would have that for lunch or dinner, tuna, corn, and white rice. And then for lunch, I would just have broccoli, rice, and then some sort of Greek yogurt or like chicken if I had it. But it was mostly Greek yogurt because it was super easy. But you can imagine just imagine a plate of canned tuna, corn, and white rice. Like, first of all, where are your greens, girl? Where are your greens at? I'm missing out on so many different vitamins and minerals. And then I'm wondering why I'm sluggish at work. I can't keep my eyes open. Just maybe I'm wired but tired in a way, like my body's moving but my mind's tired, or my mind's tired but my body's moving. Like, just so many different imbalances and different things going on with my digestive system. Like, some days my stomach was hurting, some days it wasn't. Some weeks I'm pooping fine, other weeks I'm not. Just so many ups and downs with just my insides. I didn't really know what was going on with me. And I just didn't like how food became so complicated. I became so fearful of everything. I was so resistant to trying new things. I wasn't going out at all. If I did go out, I ate before I left. I wouldn't eat when I got there. If I did eat when I got there, it was something very small, like a fruit, or maybe I would try a little nibble of this because I didn't really want to eat it too much and, potentially have some sort of flare up from my chronic illness. So, after months and months, if not probably a year or two of not purposely eating as little as possible, but just because I didn't have or wasn't allowing myself many options, I was eating as little as possible. And I lost a lot. I want to say a lot, exaggerating. I probably lost like 10 pounds within that year, year and a half. Most of it was muscle. I was very small. I didn't like it either. I was way too restrictive, but I was scared to eat more because what did that mean for my health? But looking back now, the way I was eating was causing more damage than good. I was hurting my body more than I was helping it. So after educating myself a little bit, I started looking into um, just different books and podcasts and just different things, even Instagram pages about lupus and how other women were living and just how can I be better living with this because it's a chronic illness. It's something you have to live with. I could die from it. I could not. I could live another 20 years. I could live another 2 years. Who knows? But I just had to change. So what I did was I started incorporating different foods into my breakfast and my lunch and my dinners, um, but still being very mindful of that 2,000 milligram of sodium mark because I did test that out. And if I were to consistently hit a little over, even if I was going over by like 200, 500 milligrams, if I'm going over that 2,000 calorie mark consistently, I noticed that I would have fluid retention. My feet would swell, my ankles would swell, my knuckles would hurt. Um, I feel and look bloated in my torso. And I'm just like, okay. And this is what I mean by you have to trial and error these things when you're living with a chronic illness, or even if you're not, your body is so sensitive to certain foods. People still have allergies and just food sensitivities regardless of illnesses. So you have to test things out, see what you can eat, see what you can't eat, because at the end of the day you have a life to live and you don't want to live that life restricting yourself from trying new things, new adventures. Even hell, don't think about this just being with food, but just in life in general. um so, fuck was I saying? So yes, I started incorporating different foods, not all at once. First, I would start with breakfast, so maybe I started doing more seasonings. I started adding seasonings, still being very mindful of how much sodium I was using. Like I would still use my herbs. Like I have a blend of like oregano, parsley, and just like other herbs that I got from Namonde. And then I also have a container of Himalayan salt so that I can control how much sodium is going in my food when using my seasonings. I put as much herbs as I want, decorate that. I put black pepper on everything because that helps your body to absorb the nutrients in your food better. Fun fact. And then I take the Himalayan salt and then I sprinkle it on there as much as I would like, so I know that it's not over seasoned with salt or just bland like how I was eating it before. So I started incorporating more seasonings, having fun with that, adding more foods. I started doing like English muffins, which have like 120 to 150 milligrams of sodium per English muffin. I know nutrition labels like that. Being a personal trainer for 8 years and being someone who tracks their food and just I've always like had nutrition has always been number one for me. Like, that 80-20 rule, and I tell this to all my clients. People say that it's 80% nutrition and 20% working out. That in itself should just tell you that nutrition is the most important part. But in my professional experience, I truly believe it's 90% nutrition and 10% working out, if anything. I've had clients where they would solely just focus on nutrition, just meet with me to like check their food logs, make some adjustments to their macros if they need it, and they would still see weight loss, seeing me one time a week, twice a week, just looking over food, talking about foods, creating food plans, stuff like that. Exercise, it just allows you to sculpt your body and speed up the weight loss a little bit. It's just extra, honestly. But if you want to build muscle, then you need to be lifting weight. You need to be giving your muscles a reason to be bigger, to be stronger. But nutrition is always number one. Okay, so Now, after I hooked up breakfast and added a little extra there, I moved to lunch, and I guess I always kept it healthy. I mean, I probably just did salmon and broccoli and sweet potatoes, or like I've been doing salmon for a really long time now because I don't like to think about food. I just like to have it there, eat it, be done with it, move on with my day. So I was probably doing like chicken, broccoli, and red potatoes. I was doing potatoes for a while too. But yeah, I mean, I kept it simple, but I wasn't like hiding the seasonings from myself. I started seasoning my foods more. I stopped being so afraid of salt. I stopped being so afraid of processed food. So like I still love ice cream. Like I still love fried chicken. So I'm like, okay, I don't want to completely cut that out. And I tell this to my clients too. If you force yourself to eat broccoli every day, just as an example, if you force yourself to eat broccoli every day for a week or two, there's going to be a day where you wake up and your body's going to say, I cannot wait to have broccoli for breakfast. Like, I'm really craving broccoli. You can change your body like that. You can change your cravings like that. So that's why it's easy for me to eat healthy. Like, I don't crave BS. I wake up in the morning, I'm like, oh my gosh, I cannot wait to eat my oatmeal and my boiled eggs. That's what I want. So I cleaned it up. I started adding more seasonings. I added varieties of food, and I started like maybe once a week or once every other week, whenever I was really craving it, especially like around the time of my cycle, I would go out and I get me some ice cream. I'd go out and maybe get me a little piece of cake from Publix because that is my weakness. If the clown had a piece of cake from Publix in the sewer and he said, Q, piece of cake, I'd be down there eating it out of his ass. What are we talking about? Anyway, I added more of my favorite treats again. So, like I said, ice cream, cake, cupcakes, croissants, love a croissant, and fried food. So, mm, also, when it comes to nutrition and forcing yourself to eat that broccoli for 2 weeks, once you stop eating that broccoli and you eat something else, you're going to feel it. Especially if you're been eating healthy and then you eat something that's not necessarily healthy, your gut, you're going to feel it. You're going to be shitting all over yourself. I promise you. And that's also another way that it's easy to stay eating healthy and not veering off so much. But you got to lock in for like a month, maybe a month or two, a month and a half, in order to like clear out your gut, clear out your system, and really feel that difference between how you feel when you're eating clean and eating BS. The key thing that I want you guys to take from this is that being healthy, eating healthy is a lifestyle change. It's not something that's a fad or something you're meant to do for a couple months or maybe a year or two until you get to a certain weight and then you go back to how you normally ate or how you normally were. Because when you do that, what happens? You gain the weight back. That's why I keep trying to gain and lose weight because you keep going on these diets, doing these fad Instagram stuff, TikTok stuff, and then you see the goal you want to see, kinda, and you probably messed up your knee in the process because your form is ass, and then you gain the weight back because your knee was hurting, and now you probably even gain more weight back because your knee is hurting, so there's no movement, and you're probably sad because you're gaining weight, so you're eating more food, and then maybe drop a little weight because you start watching what you eat, but then you gain get off the roller coaster. This is a lifestyle change. Slowly integrate things into your routine and then slowly take things out. How I help my clients is one, we're tracking foods from the start. From the jump, we're downloading MyFitnessPal. We're creating custom macros based on what their goals are and where they currently are as far as like their body fat and muscle mass. By the way, I want to touch on this because if you have a coach that immediately puts you in a deficit because you want to lose weight, if your muscle mass is not where it needs to be, that coach may be doing you more harm than good. You will lose weight if you're on a maintenance calorie or a maintenance macro, but we have you eating more protein, moderate carbs, lesser carbs, and a decent amount of fat. Some people are not eating enough, some people are eating way too many. Um, but for a client who wants to be smaller, not necessarily lose weight, but be smaller, and you don't have muscle mass, we're gonna be in the maintenance body recomping first. And I promise you, you're still gonna lose that fat, you're still gonna build that muscle, but your frame is gonna be smaller. And you're gonna be like, oh wow, weight doesn't matter. No, weight doesn't matter. Your muscle weight versus your fat weight matters, you know? And then once you have a good muscle mass in comparison to your fat and overall body weight, and if you still want to lose weight from there, then we'll talk about going into a deficit. So just be mindful of that. No coach should be immediately putting you in a caloric deficit unless your muscle mass is where it needs to be already. Um, so yes, start integrating things in slowly, out slowly, and after about 2 weeks, let's say you stopped eating cereal for breakfast and you started eating eggs and English muffins and avocados. We changed that for 2 weeks. Now that that's easy, now that that's in your routine, it's becoming a little bit of a habit. Now let's look at lunch. Instead of going to Chick fil A every day at 12 for lunch, maybe you pack your own lunch for the next 2, 3, 4 weeks or whatever, however long it takes you to really acclimate that to your lifestyle and really integrate it in so that it doesn't feel like a chore to do, but just feels like what you do. We prepare that lunch the night before, maybe you pack whatever, a kale salad. I have no idea. And then after that's easy, and check this, you've already changed breakfast and lunch, and you're a month and a half in, maybe 2 months, and I bet you're already losing weight, and we haven't even fixed dinner or added exercise yet. So let's talk about that. And let's not forget to have variety, have variety, have variety. Maybe you have red meat on Tuesday, then you eat salmon on Wednesday and Thursday, then you have some chicken on Friday, because different meats, they're not all created equally. Red meats are going to give you different things that salmon isn't going to give you. Salmon is going to give you different things that chicken isn't going to give you. So it's so, so, so important that you have that variety. You could get some things from broccoli that you can't get from tomatoes. You could get some stuff from tomatoes that you can't get from carrots. And then we can go all day with this. Same thing for carbohydrates. Carbohydrates are so important. Sweet potatoes are going to give you different benefits than red potatoes. Red potatoes and sweet potatoes are going to give you different benefits than white rice or brown rice. So it's so important that we're mixing these things up and not and to even simplify it for you, maybe you have that salmon, broccoli, and sweet potatoes for a week or two, and then the week after that you have chicken, red potatoes, and asparagus for the next week, and then maybe the week after that, you get where I'm going. So don't overcomplicate your time in your life by trying to create a new meal every day or create a new meal every week, or that's just it just you don't want to make food another chore. Food shouldn't be another job. And for those of us who actually have allergies, let's say you have no chronic illnesses, but you have allergies um, to certain foods or food sensitivities, you can't eat salmon, I don't know, that's when you want to incorporate supplements. So I am partnered with Prozis. So you can go to my Instagram and click the link in my bio, the Prozis supplement link. You can get 10% off. But we have these different things like vitamin A, vitamin D, the magnesium biglycinate. So if you're allergic to certain things but you still need that specific mineral or vitamin from that thing, then that's when you get supplements. Okay? So that was a mouthful. I hope that I gave you so much value and that I completely got my point across. And I'm just really happy that I got back to podcasting because I can really fucking yap. I can really fucking yap. And that's on healing because I used to be a very quiet child. But when you heal, you revert back to how you were post trauma. Amen to that, right? Um, yes, if you like this episode, if you brought some sort of value, if I brought some sort of value to your life, make sure you subscribe. Also, follow me on Instagram. Check out my links. Check out Prozis. And I will see you next time on Mind, Body, and Kadira. Now, what will the next episode be about? I don't know. You just have to tune in and find out. Until next time.